stuck here. The cops won't bother me. First crash. That's right. This is a car tire on a motorcycle. Very flat. It's a very flat tire because it's a car tire. One of the downsides I find about this is that I keep getting flats. And I wonder because there's such a large contact patch on the road that is just more into getting flats. That's one of the flats that I got, and I sealed it. Hey Squids, I am back to talk to you about my dark side tire. So as you guys know, I've been putting up different videos about the dark side tire. This is the first time I've done it on a motorcycle. This is my second dark side tire, and the only reason I'm on my second is because I got like 3 flat tires on the other one, and I got rid of it because I got a very big gash in there that was cut with a piece of steel. Still held pressure, and I even rode it home with the flat tire and it was fine, but I was pretty close to home. So this is my second BF Goodwrench Sport Comp tire. It's a 205 tire, so it's pretty wide. I kind of wish it was a little bit narrower, just a little bit. Why do I do a car tire in the back? At first it sounds ridiculous that anybody would put a car tire on a motorcycle, but the reality is that actually it handles about 95% as well as a motorcycle. And for my style of riding and for commuting and touring, this actually is a perfect tire for me. A lot of people might not be into it. There is a little bit of an initial kind of learning with the tire because it leans a little bit differently. But as soon as you start riding like 1,000 miles in, you kind of get used to it and it just becomes another tire. I do like that it has a lot of grip, and you would think that because it's flat you can't lean it, but it's completely the opposite. You actually have about the same sort of contact patch that you do in a motorcycle tire. When you're leaned over, you have the same amount of contact patch, and then the tire actually flexes a little bit, not too much, and it gives you even more contact than a regular motorcycle tire. Now I do find that I can ride the motorcycle tire much faster through the twisties, but oftentimes if I'm going that fast, then I shouldn't be riding on the street. So for most street riding, this is fine for me, and most people that do ride with me, I can keep up with most people, so it's not like an issue that I'm having of like riding it too slow. One of the things that I find interesting about motorcycle tires is that they wear out really fast. A motorcycle tire for me on the V-Strom lasts 10,000 miles. I've heard people say that they've taken tires to 15,000. I think it's usually made up stuff that people do in order to kind of win an argument online. But this car tire, the last one lasted me 15,000 miles and still had plenty of tread. Only reason I got rid of it was because I got a bunch of flat tires. This one should last me. I mean, like, these are rated for 50,000 miles in the car. So this should last me, I would think, 50,000 miles. So we will see. I'm at 50,000 miles on my V-Strom. Even taking this bike, same tire, to Deals Gap, fully luggage and the passenger, and it was fine, like no issues. On the highway, it's very comfortable. You do have this large contact patch. In the rain on the highway, you have a very large contact patch that really holds the ground really well. So it's not an issue on the highway at all. The installation on these tires is a little bit more difficult. It takes a whole lot more work to get this tire onto the rim, but there's a couple things you can do. You can just get the tire, buy it from a car place and have them install it and then balance it. Or you can do it yourself, but I don't recommend that. There are some bike shops that will do it, but you kind of have to search around for one that knows about the dark siding, thing. But oftentimes you're not going to find any issues. It's really in most people's heads that you don't want to put the car tire on a motorcycle because it seems like the wrong thing to do. I've never known about this practice until I took a very long trip and met two riders along the way that had this exact same setup. And I was kind of curious about it because on this trip, I kept like wearing out my tires, then having to search for a shop to install the tire and then having to buy the tire from them got really expensive. And I kept thinking, man, if I had this sort of setup when I was riding cross country, that would have been such a much better way to go about it than having to search for another motorcycle shop to install it and kind of taking me out of the trip. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, it just feels just as safe as a motorcycle tire. You just have that initial learning curve in the beginning and then that goes away. And then you can ride this just like a motorcycle tire. It is very much like a motorcycle tire. I think a lot of the people online that complain about it don't know anything about it. Sometimes I post up and people see the car tire and they just give you like a hard time saying that you're endangering people and endangering your life. But it's usually like just internet buffoonery. I didn't want to talk about the practice of dark siding until I tried it. And I'm kind of glad I did because it's just as safe as any other, tire. One of the comments I get in the videos is, will insurance companies insure your motorcycle because you have a car tire? And the answer is yes, especially in the United States. It might be different in other countries, but in the United States, I'm in Maryland, and in DC, it's fully legal, and insurance companies will insure your motorcycle. It's no issue at all because it's a DOT tire, and that's all you need. There is no distinction between a car tire and a motorcycle tire on a motorcycle in this area. In Europe, you would have a hard time getting passed through inspection, but generally it's you can do it. It just I think police would probably give you a ticket for it. Bike shops probably would not install it. I have a bike in Europe and I had a hard time getting a different brand of tire installed on my motorcycle, but that's because they're more, I guess it's they're more into babysitting. There's no issues at all with insurance here in the United States. This is a fine thing. The fact is there's hardly any accidents with dark side tires. And if you call people out and ask them like who had an accident with a dark side tire, they'll never tell you because it just doesn't exist. I'm sure there's been people who have fallen with the dark side tire, but often if that's the case, most likely it's not the fault of the dark side tire. It's of the rider or of the circumstance. It's as if like a sport bike rider goes wide on a corner and crashes. It's not the fault of his tires. It's the fault of the rider. So you have to be careful when riding with any tire. Dark side tires don't explode. It's like you're not going to be going down the highway and they're going to explode because they're a car tire. It just doesn't happen. And I've tried to find examples. None exists. I had battles with morons online who claim that this happens. And you just kind of push them a little bit to give you an example. And of course, none exist. I'm sure there's some accidents, but you're riding a motorcycle as well. I don't know if you realize that. You're a little bit more prone to accidents and getting hurt on a motorcycle. This is a perfectly safe alternative to a motorcycle tire. And quite frankly, motorcycle tires don't last very long. And for my style of riding, this is fine. And I kind of wish that they made tires for motorcycles that lasted a little bit more. I know that they have dual compounds now, but they're still not very good. I want a tire that I can put on my motorcycle and ride for 2 years, put 60,000 miles on it, get rid of it, get another tire. I don't want to have to keep constantly be changing tires. Off-roading. This tire, because it's flat, it's not that good for off-roading. I've taken it on gravel roads and that's fine. You don't even need like a special bike for this sort of thing. But when you're riding off-road, it tends to like find ditches and kind of follow those ditches, if that makes sense. So I'm not really into riding off-road with this bike. It's too heavy anyway. And I think if I wanted a better bike for off-roading, I'd probably get like a knobby that's better for off-roading. I wouldn't pick a car tire. But this is just like some of the things that you'll learn with these dark side tires. For me, this suits me fine, and the people who generally like talk trash about it haven't really tried it or had the experience. And I've had like a couple of guys say that they've ridden dark side tires and they handle like shit. But most of the time, you kind of have to take these things with a grain of salt. People already have their narrative built, and they want to just have people kind of join that camp. I'm not trying to convince people that dark side tires are great for you. They're great for me, and for me it works really well. And I kind of wish I knew about these tires earlier on, because I spent thousands of dollars on tires over the years that I've ridden. Well, Squids, thanks for listening to me ramble about the dark side tires. If it's not the right thing for you, don't worry, nobody really cares, but also be a little bit more open-minded about this sort of thing, because it's really not as bad as people think. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.